Hey everybody, my name is Clifford and I'm back for a brand new video. It's been almost an entire month since my last video, and before I officially start on this one, there's something I want to go over. So, as I said, it's been over almost an entire month. The last time I put out my videos, I did say I was going to try and put out some more, and I haven't been putting out any videos since like that. So, I really want to apologize for the lack of videos I haven't been putting out. Really, truth be told, is that there were a few days where I feel like the night was just kind of getting to me, and be honest, like it just felt like it was kind of getting to me, and I needed a break and stuff like that. I was getting like really tired. I do tend to like work from like 3 to 10 at my job and stuff like that. So usually when I get home, because of the late night works like that, I've been getting kind of tired and stuff like that. So I just wasn't in the mood to be going through the whole hassle of like getting everything I needed set up and stuff like that. It's like really annoying and stuff like that. And don't get me wrong, I love recording these videos and stuff like that, making them, and talking to myself amongst the camera and stuff like that, and hoping people would watch it and view it and stuff like that. So I'm all for it and stuff like that. And I mentioned before that when I do these videos, I have to use my phone. I don't have a proper camera equipment set up just yet and stuff like that. So I'm probably going to be a little bit down the way before I can even achieve something like that. And even when I want to watch some TV, like maybe like Netflix or even something on YouTube, for the meantime, I have to use my phone. So basically, whenever there's something I want to watch like that, or something that's come up, I've been kind of like busy on doing that as well. So overall, I want to apologize for the lack of me promising that I'm going to be putting out new videos like that. But it's been almost an entire month since my last video, so I just basically want to summarize and apologize for that. But hey, whenever I can get an opportunity to put out a video, I will put out the videos like that. So just keep your eyes open or your eyes peeled or whatever, notifications on, all that kind of stuff, and you'll be notified whenever I put a new video out and like that. Okay. So thank you so much for joining me. So maybe the best thing to do is just to start over. So hey everybody, my name is Clifford and I'm back. Wait, scratch that. Maybe I should have more of a Terminator or Arnold Schwarzenegger voice. I'm back. That was probably terrible. That was the worst. Expression, or worst, whatever the word is. That was completely terrible. All right. So in today's video, I'm actually going to be doing sort of a suggestion, or more of like a theory of possibility of like, what if Link actually had a secret stone of his own? Like what kind of ability could Link achieve, or Link could have, if he actually attained a secret stone? Minus the whole concept of becoming a sage, but actually attaining a secret stone that could amplify some kind of magical ability that he could possess, okay? And not mention, I'll also be going over the idea and the concept of like what it would be if Link actually swallowed the secret stone and he also attained a dragon form, okay? Now, before I really get into the concept of Link's situation here, I need to go over the other secret stones necessarily, and sort of the abilities that they possess. Now, it's not going to be a deep dive in going over how these secret stones were attained and what's the whole in-depth lore of them. Nothing like that, right? But I do need to go over them necessarily, because I also feel like the idea to figure out Link's secret stone ability might lie in understanding what Zelda's is. Now, it's not going to be necessarily an exact perfect explanation, but it might work well enough to where you could say like, okay, I think I can see the picture. So it's kind of like that, okay? Now, Link's process will be done at the end of the video, and we'll get to it as soon as we can, okay? Now, this is actually my third Zelda video that I've been making. It's like that. So, my last two videos I made were actually before Tears of the Kingdom was officially released. Matter of fact, both of them were made before Tears of the Kingdom's title was actually revealed. And if you want to check out those videos, I'll have them linked down below. Keep in mind that they're old videos like that. In one video, I was sort of giving my ideas on what the title of the sequel to Breath of the Wild was going to be before we officially knew it was going to be called Tears of the Kingdom. I don't actually remember what titles I suggested, but hey, if you're interested in knowing what titles I actually suggested and stuff like that, I'll have a link to that video down below, okay? And then the second one was basically me giving my overall thought and opinion on if Zelda was playable. I know a lot of people were out there respecting and theorizing that Zelda was going to be playable more in the underground sections like that, and unfortunately that didn't actually come to pass. It still would have been pretty interesting if they would have actually gone that route. But keep in mind, this is not me ditching on anything, right? I played Tears of the Kingdom, and it's really a great game, right? I really enjoy it, right? It does have its drawbacks, right? It's not exactly 100% perfect, but it is a very enjoyable game, nonetheless, all right? And I have really a good time playing it, okay? Matter of fact, I haven't even really completely beaten the game entirely. I've beaten the game in terms of, like, the main objective stories, and I've completed the game in the sense of, like, I gathered all the shrines, but in terms of, like, all the side quests and side adventures. I have not fully completed that just yet, okay? And I even gathered all the armor sets, nor have I upgraded them to their max levels. So, and I'm not like a hardcore perfect person who's out there who's desperate to try and get everything absolutely 100%. I mean, I'm more or less just getting to the main story and then slowly over time just building it up until I officially get to the end whenever I feel like I need to, right? But let's get into the context of the video itself, all right? So thank you so much for joining me. Let's begin. All right. So let's go over the secret stones that we have right now in each of the characters necessarily. Now, keep in mind that none of these are going to be in any present order. I'm just going to go over the secret stones, each person who has it, and the abilities that they possess. I'm not going to go into a deep dive explaining what the abilities are. Maybe some of them I will, but it's not going to be over dramatic where I'm going to basically explain how their abilities work, okay? I'm just going to basically give the... I'm basically just going to give the general idea of what the element is, okay? Okay. Now, one other thing to point out here is that a lot of connections to these secret stones, where each of them who basically become sages, a lot of these are actually sort of taking inspiration from Ocarina of Time and the Wind Waker, okay? Because a lot of the sages that sort of appear in this game also appeared in those games as well, with a few exceptions that we also have some new sages added as well, okay? So let's... So just getting that out of the way real quick, let's begin. All right. So first off, we have King Rauru. Now, King Rauru is actually the king who basically founded Hyrule during the era of Hyrule's founding, okay? Now, he is the Sage of Light, and he has a secret stone that amplifies his light powers. Now, Rauru actually shares his name with another character named Rauru from Ocarina of Time, who's also the Sage of Light. Now, unfortunately, they are different species altogether, because King Rauru in Tears of the Kingdom is a Zonai, while Rauru from Ocarina of Time was an elderly Hylian guy, who was basically the guardian of the Temple of Time and stuff like that in that game. All right. Next, we'll move on to Zelda and Sonia. So, Zelda and Queen Sonia both possess the Secret Stone of Time, and both are listed as the Sage of Time. Now, oddly enough, in Ocarina of Time, Zelda is sometimes listed as the sage, who is basically the Sage of Time, and she's also considered the leader of the sages. Now, in this concept, it's more Rauru who is actually the leader of the sages rather than Zelda, but she does play a big significant role in sort of like when she travels back in time. She plays a very significant role when she's in the past, okay? Now, it is definitely shown here that more than one person can have the same ability, right? And one other thing to point out here is that when Zelda's adventure in the past, Zelda manages to find a way to basically send her time abilities into the future, or allowing Link to use it. Now, some people might even argue that that's one good reason why Link doesn't really need one, because he's got one, right? He's got the Secret Stone of Time, which technically he does not, all right? It is basically shown that a sage can actually transfer their abilities to someone else, allowing them to use them, all right? Zelda was able to do this with her abilities. Rauru was probably able to do this with him as well, especially with his arm that he gave to Link, right? The source of the right arm, right? And it can also be seen in the 4 sages that you have to collect throughout the journey of Hyrule and stuff like that in order to, find Zelda and beat all the temples and all that kind of stuff, all right? But I don't think that's necessary. I don't think that really fits the bill and stuff like that, because I feel like a good way to describe it is that if Link had his Secret Stone of his own, the ability would be very unique to him rather than just passing on the abilities from someone else, alright? Alright. So both Zelda and Sonia have the Secret Stone of Time, right? Allowing them to basically manipulate time, such as rewinding it, okay? Next up, we have the Secret Stone of Darkness. Now, this is actually Ganon's Secret Stone, right? And he actually attains the Secret Stone from Sonia. Now, the interesting key point here to point out here is that a Secret Stone is not focused on the natural ability itself alone, right? It actually is based on the wielder who is actually wielding it, okay? So, to put it simple here, I guess the basic logic point to point out would be if Rauru has the Secret Stone of Light and Ganondorf has the Secret Stone of Darkness, right? Even if they were to switch the Secret Stones, that does not necessarily mean that Rauru attains the Secret Stone of Darkness, and that does not mean that Ganondorf attains the Secret Stone of Light, because it most likely appears to be that anyone, if someone who has the Secret Stone own and their ability is, say, like I don't know, music, they can play music and stuff like that. They're a natural born music player. If their stone is picked up by someone else, then the stone obviously amplifies the ability that they are most likely attached with, okay? So it's not so much of that. but it is shown that you can actually share your abilities or basically pass on your abilities to someone else, okay? Next up, we have Tulin, who becomes the Sage of Wind, who attains the Secret Stone of Wind. Next would be Yunobu, who attains the Secret Stone of Fire, who becomes the new Sage of Fire. Sidon attains the Secret Stone of Water, who is the new Sage of Water. Next would be Riju, who attains the Secret Stone of Lightning, who becomes the Sage of Lightning. And lastly is Minoru, who is King Raru's older sister, who is actually the Sage of Spirits, who attains the Secret Stone of Spirit. Now, one key aspect to point out here is that a lot of the characters in the game actually have a lot of good connections to past games from Ocarina of Time and the Wind Waker, alright? So, take for instance, right? Both the Fire Sage and Water Sage in Tears of the Kingdom, both of them are represented by the same species from that game as well, alright? So the Sage of Fire was both represented by a member of the Goron, and the Sage of Water are both represented by a member of the Zora, okay? Now, we do have some other unique changes in this variant compared to the past games, right? So, for instance, right, in Tears of the Kingdom, Riju, a member of the Gerudo, is the Sage of Lightning. However, in the Ocarina of Time, a Gerudo woman, I believe her name was, let's see, did I write down her name? I believe her name was, no, that's not it. I think I forgot to write down most of their names. Yeah. Yeah, I completely forgot to write down their names. But to sum it up, the Gerudo girl in that one who becomes the Sage of Spirits, alright? Unfortunately, in Tears of the Kingdom, Minoru is the Sage of Spirits, okay? But another thing to point out here is that even if by chance, now some people would probably argue that there's no reason for this because like Nintendo has already announced that they have no plans to make any DLC or feature installments within this series, and they're moving on to the next one. And look, I understand, completely agree. Right? I mean, I'm okay with them moving on, but I also feel like I have enough room for one more adventure as long as they can make a great appealing story that can basically entertain me and stuff like that. And it's just not something. I mean, I kind of understand, right? Even with the whole concept of Tears of the Kingdom, it really does feel like you're just traveling through the same land all again. And even with the whole concept of the Sky Islands and the depths, it still didn't feel like there was anything presently new. Even with the 4 new kingdoms and basically trying to find the tiers and stuff like that, overall it didn't really seem significant enough. Like there was nothing generally conceptually new, right? And I completely understand, okay? But I'm still okay with a new adventure in this realm as long as they can present something that can be entertaining, something that can really really make us feel something to really make us feel something that can actually make us say, yes, I want one more adventure. Okay, so one other thing to point out here is something very significant, something that could be very entertaining, something that could be very useful to understand here, is that if by chance we actually did attain more secret stones, and we got more companions that can actually come with us on our journeys, then there are a few significant characters who I feel like could be very important for this, okay? And not just Link alone, okay? So one aspect could be, because like we do have some unique elements or basically sages from those past games that are not present in this one. So the sages that are not present within Tears of the Kingdom that did appear in the Wind Waker and the Ocarina of Time respectively, the ones that are missing are the Secret Stone, or basically the Sage of Shadows, the Sage of Forest, and the Sage of Earth. Now, and basically the Sage of Shadows was a character who appeared in Ocarina of Time, and that was basically Impa, right? And say in Ocarina of Time, the Sage of Shadow was Impa, okay? Now, a good candidate I have for the new Sage of Shadows who could attain a Secret Stone of Shadow could be Paya. Now, Impa could be a good choice again, but I feel like Paya might be more of a, I feel like Paya might be more of like a good representative of it this time around rather than Impa, right? And Impa does play a good part in the story of Tears of the Kingdom, right? She's actually basically researching the tears that have actually fallen upon the kingdom in order to uncover their mystery, okay? Next, we have the Secret Stone of Forest. Now, in Ocarina of Time, Saria is actually the Sage of the Forest, okay? And a good candidate that we could probably summarize to basically have Secret Stone of Forest could be Hetsu, okay? And lastly, for the Secret Stone of Earth, which which basically would reflect on the stage of Earth. But keep in mind here is that the canon I'm going to list here would be Master Koga. And one significant reason why I'm selecting him necessarily is because of their unique ability to have like a scroll that you can attain that will allow you to do some kind of earth magic, or basically you do an earth strike that allows you to power into the ground and cause the birth of like destruction earthquakes. Okay, now any basically Yiga clan can actually use this ability, alright? But I feel like it would be more unique and present if Master Koga attains a Sacred Stone of his own, allowing him to manipulate this ability even further or go even beyond it, okay? Now, it's one key aspect to point out here that just because a person attains a Sacred Stone does not make him a sage necessarily, okay? Ganondorf also attained a Sacred Stone, and he is not a sage, okay? So it's not out of the realm of possibility to say that that an enemy like Master Koga or someone else entirely could attain a Sacred Stone and basically attain an element from that portion of view, okay? Now, here's some key aspects of what their abilities could actually be necessarily, alright? So maybe for the Shadow, you could probably create a Shadow, you might be able to create a Shadow clone of yourself, alright? You might be able to create a Shadow Link necessarily, and maybe because of that, the Shadow Link can actually help you in certain situations. Like any move that you make, it will follow your pattern as well. All right. So let's say you're fighting a Gleeok, right? You basically fire an arrow at the Gleeok. It at the same time follows your pattern and fires arrow at the Gleeok as well, allowing it to cause damage as well. All right. So it's based on your skills alone. So it's not that the Shadow is better than you. It's more of just copying your movement. Right? It's basically just copying what you do. So maybe for Hetsu, we know Hetsu has the maracas, and he does like help us increase our inventory by collecting the Korok seeds. But I feel like a good idea for him would be, imagine if he can create vines, like grow vines out of the ground that can hold certain enemies down, or maybe vines that actually target specific enemies and basically strike them, causing damage or whatever it may be. All right. And I did mention the whole concept of like the earth thing, that maybe it can enhance like the earth ability necessarily. Maybe it can create like a force walls, allowing you to like crash into the ground, allowing you to make earthbound shields and stuff like that, right? Or maybe it allows you to pick up giant boulders or out of the ground, or maybe cause massive earthquakes, or stomp the ground so fast and so hard that it's causing massive earthquakes and causing shaking the ground, almost making it difficult to actually to basically stand. All right, and it's basically causing damage. All right, so that's one key aspect of it. Okay. All right, so those are the properties of everything that we've gone over on the Secret Stones necessarily. Now, so now we get into the real topic of the video necessarily of like, if Link actually had a Secret Stone of his own, what good ability could Link actually have? And I did mention before, I believe that Zelda is a good key aspect of it to understand what Link's Secret Stone could be. So the good way to summarize this is to look at both Rauru and Ganondorf. Both Rauru and Ganondorf's Secret Stone abilities are both, they're both the opposite of each other, right? Light and dark, okay? Now, this does not necessarily mean that I'm going to state that Zelda's Secret Stone or Link's Secret Stone has to be the opposite of Zelda, right? I do feel like the presence of it feels like both of them need to be something separately. They basically need to be their own thing, but they can work well together, right? It's kind of like, instead of it being like two things that don't work well together, they're two things that can work well together, right? It's sort of that concept, okay? Okay, and my overall looking at it, I tried looking up other different things, and I really came to a good possibility. I have a couple of names suggested of it, but overall the main aspect of what I'm going to go for is this. So for Link's Secret Stone, I'm suggesting the Secret Stone of Space, or another good candidate or name I have is the Secret Stone of Aether. But overall, the Secret Stone of Space is basically to summarize the idea that I have, and like I mentioned, I use Zelda's Secret Stone of Time as a good candidate to understand what his ability could actually be and why it could actually work, okay? And not to mention, if you put the concept of time and space together, you get space-time. Space-time, right? You get space-time. Time. Two words that each reflect their own thing, but can actually come together to form one thing. Okay. So to put it simple, with Zelda Secret Stone focusing on time, having Link's Secret Stone focus on space is always a good way to represent the time and space as space-time. So space is a 3D dimensional continuum containing position and directions. It's also grouped with time, which is part of the boundless 4-dimensional continuum. Together, space and time form to make space-time. Right. Another key aspect of here, as I mentioned, is the Secret Stone of Aether. Aether is a material that fills the region of the universe beyond the terrestrial sphere. Aether was used to explain several theories such as light and gravity. Okay, and oddly enough, a lot of especially when you have the concept of like Zelda having the ability of light, having Link represent space could be a good way to maybe have the ability of gravity itself, right? Something more unique. Not to mention there are plenty of Sky Island levels within the Tears of the Kingdom that actually has sort of a zero gravity presence, right? Well, not complete zero gravity, but gravity is basically lightweighted to make it more easier to jump off the ground, all right? And that's one good idea that you can summarize and understand why this might actually work, okay? Okay, so I did lay down a few ideas and general ideas on what the Secret Stone of Space could actually be and how the abilities could actually work. All right, I have 5 suggestions. Okay, if anyone has their own suggestions, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. Okay, so for the first concept I have is create a space where gravity is controlled. So to summarize, like imagine like you're able to create a space around you that can either control the gravity, such as like make something feel heavier or make something feel lighter, right? Imagine like if you're able to do this on enemies, right? Imagine you're able to put more gravity on the Gleeok, where the Gleeok is so heavy that it can't fly into the air, right? And allowing you to probably have better aim towards the Gleeok before it gets too high, okay? Now, we also have to understand here that it would probably definitely have to have like a limit to it. It's not going to be like it's probably going to be just like how in past games, how you always have a magic meter, and that might be one key aspect of it, that it depends on how your magic meter is. Like, and maybe you can upgrade your magic meter to a new level, but overall, that's one key aspect that we can probably understand of what an ability could actually be. Second one is to use the stone to avoid weapons or enemies for a limited time. Now, I got this concept off the concept of void, because in a lot of places around the world, aside from like space and aether, sometimes referred to as the 5th element, void is sometimes thrown in there as well, right? And space is a vast universe where it's basically the void abyss, right? In some cases, okay. And the way I have this is that it will allow you to basically maybe void an enemy or an enemy for a certain amount of time, allowing you to get better, allowing you to get more of a better situation, all right, and allow you to help yourself out. Unless you lead the battlefield and yet you chicken out, and it basically cancels everything out. Number 3, use the stone's power to increase attacks and defenses for a limited time. Now, this could be a good option, and it could probably work, but it also feels like it would undermine the whole mechanic system of like, upgrading armors and stuff like that, and be able to like better enhance your weapons and all that kind of stuff. But overall, it still would be limited time, and it would basically summarize of how much it actually amplifies your ability based upon the skill of the person itself, okay? Next up, we have create a shadow space clone of yourself. So much like how I suggested for the Paya one, where the Secret Stone of Shadow allows you to create a shadow clone yourself, the same concept works in that case. Except the main difference here is that, well, there's 2 main differences. One is that the shadow space clone is more of a space entity, right? Instead of it appearing more of a shadow version of you, it's more of a space version of you, right? It's kind of like the same concept of like Shadow Galaxy Mario, where it's not just like the shadow version of it, it also looks like it's an entity from space itself, right? So the last one I have is create a portal to change the distance of an area of space. So to summarize it, it's more of like a teleportation thing. So even with the whole teleportations in Tears of the Kingdom or even Breath of the Wild, you have your shrines and stuff like that. However, it is also still much of a hassle where some areas are still far out of reach, right? And even with like, and look, even though we had things like the Zonai devices and stuff like that, allowing you to build mechanics like that, it's still freaking annoying as hell, because the whole build concept is like don't get me wrong, right? It's very unique and it's very fun to build something entertaining and stuff like that. But at the same time, it's also very, very annoying, right? Especially when you gotta make sure like you have enough battery power for a certain object X. You also gotta make sure you have enough Zonai and not Zonai, but Zonai on hand in order to be able to summarize these vehicles even more, right? And it's also kind of very annoying with that, right? So what I was thinking here is that the idea of it is that it will allow you to basically teleport yourself to a certain area. So imagine if you're able to fuse the Secret Stone ability to, say, like an arrow, okay? Like if you have plenty of arrows or maybe an object, okay? Okay, and let's say even though you got close enough to where you need to be, the area where you want to go is still way far out of reach, right? Imagine the concept of like fusing the ability to, say, like an arrow, firing the arrow, and allowing you to basically teleport or to where that arrow is, right? And allow you to basically teleport to that space, to that area of space, all right? Allowing you to be able to achieve where you want to go, right? And now, of course, there is basically a limit to how far it can actually go, right? So it's not necessarily of like, say like you fire, let's say like you're all the way at the Gerudo Desert, all right? And you fire an arrow from the Gerudo Desert all the way to Zora's Domain, all right? You can't fire an arrow that far, so it's basically limited to how far your arrow can actually shoot. But overall, that's the main concept of what I had for the idea of the abilities, all right? And hey, if anyone else has their own ideas and their own ideas on what the abilities could be, feel free to leave them in the comment section, okay? All right, so that's everything I have on the concept of like Link's abilities for the Secret Stone. Now getting over the main, the last part of the video of it is what if Link actually saw the Secret Stone and what kind of dragon could he be? Now it's interesting enough here that when it came to like the idea of Link's dragon form and what he could actually be, I always thought it was very important to actually look at the concept of like Link, Zelda, and Ganondorf. Okay, so one thing to point out here is that when you look at Zelda and Ganondorf, you can actually reflect them in one of the areas that are basically playable in Tears of the Kingdom, right? So Zelda with the Light Dragon is a good concept of like these skies themselves, right? And Ganondorf is a good representative of the depths themselves, okay? So Ganondorf is basically the demon dragon, and having him represent the depths, which I also thought would be very important here if Link represented by the surface levels themselves, right? And I feel like that would be a key aspect of it, okay? So overall, I basically began thinking of something that could be really unique for Link in this area. And one key aspect that I had an idea for Link was a nature dragon. But I feel like Nature Dragon wasn't really significant enough, and I feel like it needed to be something entirely new. Something, well, not something new. I wanted to take inspiration from, like, Ocarina of Time and probably Wind Waker, probably take inspiration from those games, or maybe something that's always been present in certain games, like a name that Link has always been referred to, and even something that can be a callback to a past game, but is completely, is taking it in a completely different direction, alright? But I wanted it to represent nature in this area, or basically some type of mythical entity or spirit that can represent nature itself. Now, nature is, well, nature can sometimes be represented as sort of like the force of the earth itself. It's more representative of the essence of all life, right? And that's a good way to connect it to Aurora, who is the goddess of life, right? Because she basically breathed life, basically is the essence of all life itself, right? And nature is the essence of all life itself, right? Nature isn't just like, you know, humans or even the plants, it's everything, right? The elements, it's humans, animals, the ground, and everything in life exists in nature, right? It's not just us, it's all of us. It's everything. Okay? And Link always having the unique ability to basically use anyone's abilities, I feel like would be a good way to represent that, okay? Himself. Now, one key aspect here is that for Link's, I do have a good idea of what Link's dragon could actually look like, and I'm actually going to base it off of something from a past game that was actually did not actually return in this game, which would actually have been pretty interesting. But to summarize it, the idea I had for Link's dragon form is a fairy dragon. Now, I know, a lot of people are probably like scratching their heads, probably cleaning out their ears, and like, wait, did I hear him correctly? Did he just say fairy? Did you just say fairy? Yes, alright, I said fairy, okay? Fairy dragon, okay? And I sort of got this idea looking at past games, right? And one key aspect here that I thought would be very interesting is that the reason why I decided to do this is that I felt like a fairy dragon would be very unique here, and I wanted to have it like a really good connection to Ocarina of Time, and even with like Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, or even the Wind Waker. Now, of course, in the Wind Waker, there's some very significant differences in the Wind Waker compared to Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, right? However, just like in Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, you have a fairy travel companion, right? In Ocarina of Time, it's Navi, okay? in Majora's Mask, your partner is Tattle, who is basically trying to find her brother Tail. All right, and she basically helps you. She basically helps you remove the curse upon you, allowing you to return to normal. But in exchange, you also have to help her find her brother and the Skull Kid after she gets separated. Okay. But to summarize it, I thought it would be very good way to sort of connect it to those games as well, right? Not to mention, because Link has always worn green in past games, he's also referred to as a fairy. In some cases, referred to as Mr. Fairy or like the Fairy Boy. And not to mention, in one of the past games, Link's Adventure, Zelda 2, Link's Adventure, when Link attains like magic spells, there's a magic spell that actually allows Link to turn into a fairy, alright? But in this concept, instead of Link turning into a little small fairy, he's turning into a giant dragon, alright? A fairy dragon, okay? And I do have a good idea of what, on how we can actually summarize the dragon that's there earlier, alright? And stuff, so, alright. So here's a basic laydown of like the fairy dragon, and that I'm going to basically give. Okay, so a spirit of all nature that exists has taken the form of this mythical dragon, believed to be the guardian of the fairies. It soars to the skies, controlling the elements of lightning, ice, and fire. But no one has seen the spirit. But the children have all claimed to have seen the dragon descend upon the surface, walking amongst the people, which would be something very entertaining as of itself. And imagine, like, if you managed to attain a new armor called the Fairy Dragon armor, imagine if this actually allowed Link to basically shrink, right? Or basically enter, like, hey, one concept that they originally was going to introduce in Breath of the Wild was the Minish cap, right? They actually wanted to reintroduce the Minish into this world as well. Unfortunately, they basically abandoned the idea of it because it, well, I don't actually remember what the reason was, but hey, maybe that could be something as well, okay? Maybe that could actually been something that could actually have been very entertaining, but overall it never actually came into existence, okay? So the last key aspect here is basically to go over what the dragon actually looked like, right? Well, I think one key aspect to understand here is that I feel like the dragon could almost look very similar amongst Zelda itself, right? Even when you look at like Farosh, Dinral, and Naydra, they both have very similar appearances amongst themselves, okay? So I can summarize and think that, Link's dragon form might have to look very similar to Zelda, right? Not completely similar, as I feel like there might be a few distinct differences, okay? However, I thought it would be a very good idea if Link's dragon form could have some color schemes based off of the Great Fairy Sword from Majora's Mask, okay? So to summarize it, let's say Link's horns and scales, things like that, imagine that they're all green from the same green coloring in the middle of the Great Fairy Sword, okay? And this could be a good way to reflect it, because just like with Zelda and Ganondorf, both of their stones both can represent the goddesses that they've always represented from past games. With Zelda representing Nehru, and Ganondorf representing Din, which Link's green ones can always represent Farosh herself. Okay. And then you also have like purple in there as well, along with some red, and maybe with the color scheme, the bottom portion and where the handle is, maybe that can reflect more in the maybe that can actually reflect more in like the area of like Link's face, things like that. And obviously the hair would be sort of like a dark blonde, just like how Zelda's hair is on hers. We can also see the same idea and concept for Link as well. Okay. All right. I believe that's everything. Yeah, so that's pretty much all the main concepts and main things I have overall. All right. So look, overall, I know a lot of people would probably really not be very interested in this like that, and it's like a complete waste of time. But I really felt like just just sort of suggesting it and sort of just like throwing it out there as a bit of an idea theory. All right. And I know they did say that they had no plans for DLC or anything like that, and they're ready to move on to the next project. Okay. But overall, like I do feel like I have enough room for one more adventure, as long as they can deliver a great story that can be very unique and presenting, right? So that's my overall idea of it, and the presence of like, if Link actually had a Secret Stone, what ability could his ability be? And if he actually swallowed his Secret Stone, what exactly could his dragon be, right? And I feel like the Secret Stone of Space and a fairy dragon could be a good idea of it, right? Now, you can agree or disagree, right? That's all upon you, but let me know what you guys actually think, and feel free to leave in the comment section below, right? So, and another another key aspect here that I want to point out here that I was going to make it probably a video on itself, but maybe I'll just say it, okay? So as I did mention that I'm okay with one more adventure in this world as long as they come up with a great story. And originally, before they even announced that they had no plans to make DLC, I was always thinking that we could actually get a third adventure, which would be very unique in itself, okay? And one idea that I had for the title of the video itself, for basically a third Breath of the Wild, right? And stuff. And I sort of got the idea of like looking at the first two games, right? So when looking at the first two titles, each one can actually reflect both the characters of Link and Zelda respectively, alright? So to summarize, in Breath of the Wild, it's basically like you're basically waking up as Link from a 100-year slumber, and you're basically taking your first breath into this new vast wild adventure. Sure, in the concept of Link, he's already explored these lands beforehand, but because of the lack of memory that you don't attain, and you're basically trying to understand and what happened, just like Link is you're basically taking a breath within this new wild era, okay? And then Tears of the Kingdom, the tears are actually the dragon's tears, which are Zelda's tears that have fallen upon the kingdom, and it's your job to actually attain these tears in order to understand what has actually happened to Zelda, and understand what has basically became of her, okay? Now, when looking at the two aspects of these titles, all right, each one has to reflect on a certain thing that can come from something. Okay, so such as breath can basically refer to like the winds and the wilds, just like that. But it can also refer to breath as in like breathing, right? Such as like when Link runs too fast, he runs out of stamina. He is breathing heavily, right? You're basically playing as Link. You're you're basically breathing the same wild air as Link, right? And with Tears of the Kingdom, Zelda herself, the tears are from Zelda, right? Tears as in like, crying, right? Something that comes from the eyes, right? So you have one concept of something that comes from the mouth and something that comes from the eyes. So I was thinking that if a third title or a third game can actually exist, then maybe something like from the ears, right? Something like hearing, right? Hearing is what we can summarize would be a good idea for the third title, right? And overall, I came up with like a few good titles overall. Some of them were probably good, but they still lacked something, all right? And overall, the titles I basically suggested that I have are like The Legend of Zelda, Heart of the Moon, The Legend of Zelda, Heart of the Islands, The Legend of Zelda, Heart of the Land, The Legend of Zelda, Heart of the Highlands, The Legend of Zelda, Heart of the Realms, which technically speaking, I feel like the last one is actually my favorite. And the one key aspect here I was going to introduce for the concept of it is like allowing a new realm to exist, right? So even in past games, you have many realms, such as like the Twilight Realm, the Sacred Realm, the Dark Realms, stuff like this, right? You have like different realms, right? The Spirit Realm and all that kind of stuff, right? So imagine the concept of like introducing a new realm, right? A new realm that exists, right? And it's really the concept of like really focusing on listening to where you need to go, right? It's like really the concept of like listening to where you need to go, like listening to the directions, like listening to the call of the voice, okay? And now, why heart necessary, right? Well, like I did mention before, right? I feel like it was a good idea to use the concept of like hear necessarily, right? As in like hearing, right? And I wanted to really focus on the concept of like listen to the heart, okay? And since, technically in English, I'm not sure how many places around the world actually have this concept, but like when you spell heart, you also spell hear, as in like listening or like hearing something, right? And stuff. So, H-E-A-R is hear. And H-E-A-R-T is heart, right? So literally just add a T to the end of here and you get heart. So basically the concept like, listen to your heart, right? And another key aspect to basically summarize is like how much of a connection can we actually draw upon I'm probably going to butcher the S, and I do apologize, from Princess Mononoke, alright? Because just like in Tears of the Kingdom and even Breath of the Wild, there were a lot of inspirations that are taken from that game as well. So a good key aspect here is to actually summarize of like, what could be something new, what could be something taken from that as well that can actually be added into it. So if anyone has any suggestions on something like that, feel free to let me know, okay? But maybe one key aspect here to actually summarize how the story can actually begin is that imagine like if we face off against a new enemy, me that Link is basically in combat against. Okay, so basically, if this enemy attacks and you're basically in a combat with this enemy all right, and that's actually one key aspect that would be very unique and interesting, right? So even though I enjoy Tears of the Kingdom, I do have some negatives and some drawbacks, okay? So one key aspect I thought would be more interesting, unique, is like, let's say, so in Tears of the Kingdom, just like you start the game, and you basically start off with all your, well, technically your hearts on the past game from Breath of the Wild, but you do get a full set of hearts, right? And when you stumble upon Ganondorf's tomb and stuff like that, you're basically attacked by this gloom that basically drains your hearts. Imagine a concept here is like where you're actually given the chance to actually play the actual presence at the beginning itself. You're actually be able to play the final, basically fight against the final enemy, but no matter how many times you're trying to fight him, you're never able to actually beat him. So imagine the concept of like you're full on like not completely full, but you're full on like weapons, like your like weapons are very powerful, and like you're maybe not like super powerful, not like in game level powerful, but they're powerful enough to where you can basically deal some very heavy damage, right? And so imagine the concept of like you're fighting the enemy necessarily, and no matter how many times you fight him, you're basically going through all your inventory, right? You're basically going through all your healing, all your food supplies, all your weapons, everything. You're going through all of it dramatically, and the guy is just wrecking you, right? And no matter how many times you're beating him, you're losing with everything you're going for, which it might actually drive some people nuts, and it probably would piss a lot of people off. It's like, damn, how powerful is this guy? But yeah, that's one key aspect of it, right? And after overall, one suggestion I have is that the guy or this enemy could actually pick up the Master Sword, all right? So now a lot of people would basically would deny that and say like no, right? Someone evil cannot pick up the Master Sword, right? And yes, I understand the concept, all right? But just like in Tears of the Kingdom, they basically sort of broke that concept by even having a gloom to be able to break the Master Sword, right? It's always supposed to be the blade that repels evil, and even when it's weak, it still seems weird that it was able to crush by something evil itself, right? So if that's possible and that's the case, then even someone of like an enemy in a new game, you never know the situation of like what they can actually do next, right? Like seriously, like someone of like evil presence or someone probably bad, or like the enemy can actually pick up the Master Sword and actually use it as well. And the concept I'm going to introduce here is that Heart of the Realms actually is basically Link traveling through a new realm, right? You're basically in a new realm of Hyrule, right? Not really, you're still in the same Hyrule, but you're more in a new realm, right? You're traveling to a new realm. So just like the concept of like Twilight Princess, you have Hyrule and the Twilight Realm, all right? So imagine the same concept here where we have a new realm, such like maybe like the Dream Realm, or like the realm of the fairies, or maybe something like that. And that's basically the key aspect of what I'm basically presenting on that idea. So basically, The Legend of Zelda, Heart of the Realms, is basically traveling through the heart of this new realm, right? You're basically in the heart of a new realm, right? It basically, whatever the new realm might be, right? You're basically within the heart of it, and you're trying to find a way to get back home. And maybe we can introduce some more concepts of stuff like underwater levels and things like that, all right? But overall, that's the main gist of the video events like that. That's what I have on Link's Secret Stone ability, what his dragon can actually be. But overall, that's basically the end of it, all right? And before I finish on the video entirely, I want to give over some of my nitpicks of like Tears of the Kingdom and stuff, all right? So while I kind of agree with the whole concept of like why some people might say that Link doesn't need a Secret Stone, there are people actually out there who would probably have Link rather have a Secret Stone rather than the sages themselves, all right? And the sages are actually kind of annoying for certain situations, all right? For instance, like a lot of cases, like whenever you want to use a certain sage, they're not always with you in certain situations where you have to actually go after them in order to be able to use their ability for a certain reason, right? Which is also very annoying because there are people out there who don't even use the sages at all, okay? I remember this one time when, I don't remember which dragon it was, right? But I fired an arrow at one of the dragons, and I was going, and it basically, they dropped one of their, I don't remember what it was. It might have been one of the scales, but they dropped one of their things, right? And I was going to go pick it up, but then Tulin all of a sudden came right next to me, and because Tulin, like, the Sage's abilities are activated by the same command that allows you to pick up an item, right? So because Tulin actually came next to me, even though I did not actually go anywhere near him, he just basically came right straight towards me. And I remember that I was getting ready to pick up the item itself, and Tulin's ability activated, blowing the object away. And I swear, for the love of, no matter how many times I searched for it, I could not find it ever again. Like, that thing was completely gone. I could not find it. It's like, and I just fired it off, so I would have to wait for the cooldown of the dragon to actually finish before I can actually do anything. So it was really freaking annoying. And that's really something annoying when it comes to the sages themselves, right? I like the sages necessarily, and the whole story that they have, and like that. So that's not a problem, right? But it is very annoying when having to use the sages, right? And even when you go through the whole concept of like turning them on and off, it's still annoying because there are times where when I do turn them off, I tend to forget to turn them on, where I'm thinking to myself, where are all those freaking sages? Why are they not coming? So overall, there are some nitpicks over it, but overall, I do love the game, right? Tears of the Kingdom is a very entertaining game, and I've enjoyed it very much, right? And I can't wait to see what they have in store for the next installment of The Legend of Zelda, which we are going to basically be doing something new entirely, but overall, that is basically what I want to give, all right? So thank you so much for joining me for this video. Hey, if anyone has their own ideas and their own suggestions on what they think of the video, please let me know in the comment section below. If you enjoyed my video, enjoyed anything I have to offer, and you're ready to see more of it, feel free to subscribe to the channel. Hit notification bells, all right? And whenever I can get the opportunity, I will put out a new video as soon as I can. So overall, thank you so much for joining me. You all have a good day. Bye now.